What is going on, everybody? We're live on Instagram and Facebook, well, and YouTube, all different platforms going on. I think I'm live. I don't know.
I don't know either because I just I thought I clicked live. Oh my gosh, whatever. We live. We here.
We live, y'all. Okay. All right. So, I guess we're on live. I don't know. Let me check on YouTube. All right, guys, we're live. Like and share this feed. Pretty excited for today.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely am not live on Instagram. Okay. So anyway, so
Me neither. What's going
no. So let me try it again. All right. Oh, you might have to go to edit. All right. No, it's working. All right. So guys, today we're talking about moving with purpose. I don't know what happened with the Instagram. We trying to make it work, but oh, here it goes.
on?
It is what it is at this point.
Yes.
Oh, I think you got okay. So you know what I gotta do, Natalie? Okay, sorry about this, y'all. So just click edit at the top and I'm sorry, go towards at the top where it says edit and click your Instagram link and just redo it. I guess we making it happen. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we making it happen. It won't let me take the stream link. Maybe I could copy and see.
Okay, so we are live, guys. Sorry about this on
Look, it's not our fault. This is what happens. Sometimes it's real time issues that you have to deal with, and we can't let the emotion of what it looks like get us out of position. And so it is what it is, y'all. This is what happens in real time, and so we navigating through it because it
yeah.
ain't our fault.
And I think the beautiful part about what we're working on is about really just trying to make it cohesive,
Mhm.
um, and just getting things together. Okay, I'm on. I'm ready. So, did you get live yet?
Almost there.
Okay, so if you click the at the top your name and click edit, and then you put the stream key back in.
I just need to click go live, and for some reason, this thing won't.
Give it a second. It just came on mine. All right,
Okay.
guys, like and share this feed on YouTube and Facebook. We're now finally live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. All right, guys, like and share this feed. Today we're talking about something really dope about walking with purpose. You got it, yours in? Okay. What up from Jersey? Yurt. All right, guys, like and share the feed on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Got some really exciting news to talk about too about walking with purpose.
Yes. Let's go.
So the past couple of days, I was just talking to Natalie before we got live. I wasn't depressed, but I just feel like I was just feeling some type of way. Like I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was feeling also like not burnt out, but I feel like I was just living life as normal, like just going through the emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
I had to start thinking about, okay, Jay, so you don't like how this feels. So normally what you do is what are you doing differently or what are you not doing that you normally do? So
Mm-hmm.
I had to take an inventory of what's going on in my life, and I realized that I'm putting more energy into people than I am myself. Now I know that I'm meant to help people, but there has to be a balance with that, right?
Yeah.
So I had to take inventory about, okay, what are you called to do? What are you doing that you are doing differently? So the first thing I was doing differently was I wasn't being intentional about my morning routine. All right. Yeah,
Oh.
I make my bed, but I said, let me start, let me move back. I'm not intentionally praying every day. I'm not intentionally finding a focus to read the scripture every day. I'm not doing little games on my phone that helps me focus or to increase my problem solving skills. So all this stuff I'm not doing what I normally do, right? So I said, okay, Jay, today what you're gonna do is first of all, it started last night. You're gonna go try to go to bed at be in the bed at least by 10:30. That's the first thing I did. That was my first goal, so I can start tomorrow off, which is today, correct? Then today I woke up at I think like 5:30, and I woke up to pray. I stretched, I exercised, I meditated, some I cleaned up a bit. So I started my morning to be productive, and I started my faith confessions. All right, and what I normally I haven't been doing that the past like week or so. So I had to say, okay, Jay, you're not establishing routines to be happy. You're not establishing routines to start with purpose. You're not establishing routines that's going to help you pivot and go to the next level. And when I realized, I'm like, Jay, you're not doing stuff that you normally do. So you can't be all like surprised when things are not flowing the way you want it to flow if you're not taking time to do what you need to do to be successful. And that all aligns with walking in your purpose. So when you walk with purpose, when you're moving with purpose, every day you start to move strategically, where every day it's like, okay, so for Thursday, March 7th, I'm going to do these 3 tasks to start my day off right, because I want to get this done, right? And I think once I start really taking inventory of what I do, my movement is different because I realize I have a purpose. I'm not meant to be normal. I'm not meant to be regular, but I'm meant to dominate a certain space. In order to dominate a certain space, like when it comes to the classroom, when it comes to business, when it comes to coaching, I have to dominate those industries if I want to be successful. So with that dominating force, I had to realize that what are you doing in your personal life to move with purpose so you can be the best of this or this. Like I had to really readjust my daily routines and activities, because if I want a certain output, I have to have a certain input. And that's where I'm at right now when with what it relates to moving with purpose.
If you want a certain output, you have to change the input. Like that part was so pivotal and so key. And I love that you're talking about this, because I'm like, we the same person this week, right? Because that's how I was feeling the week before last. And a friend of mine, I'm part of a Parent Plus community, and led by Cassandra Brewington, and she really teaches parents how to take ownership, or how to take responsibility for their child's success in and outside of the classroom. So I'm part of this community, and she says, hey, I'm changing my wake up time to 5 a.m. Does anybody want to join me in the 5 a.m. club? And I hear her putting out this call to action. And finally, sometime last week, I was like, you know what? I'm going to join you in this 5 a.m. club. And I did. And I felt so much better because I had more time, like you just said, to plan out my day. I had more time to sit with God, to read my Bible, to really hone in on how I'm going to maneuver throughout the day, right? And then at the end of the week, I was feeling this urge and this tug from the Holy Spirit to wake up at 4. And I was like, I think I might be moving into the 4 a.m. club. I was letting her know. And she was just like, oh, really? I mean, for her, it would be the same time because she's on Central Standard Time, right? Okay. And I did it this morning. So I woke up at 4, but I laid in the bed until about 4:30. And then I got up and then I went, got my coffee. And I didn't realize that doing all of those things takes time. By the time that I actually sat down to read and to, work through things, it was already like 4:45, 4:50. And so I'm like, wow, I didn't even know how much time it took just to prepare for the preparation of doing the thing. But it has been such a game changer this last couple of last week and a half, maybe less than that, of waking up early, preparing and planning to read my word, and not reading to be like, okay, how do I move through the day? It's just reading to gain more wisdom and insight, right? It's like I felt like I didn't have time for that before. I'm just reading and be like, all right, how do I get through this day? Holy Spirit, show me a scripture. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to fight against something instead of moving from a place of victory. And so those 2 hours or hour and a half or whatever the time may be before you actually have to get on the move, where you're settling yourself and you're settling your mind, is actually setting you up to move with purpose, so that, like you said, we're not habitually going through these things, but our routine and the systems that we are creating is going to help us move in purpose throughout our day.
That's so good. I think it's so funny how for me, the hardest thing about my day is setting systems in place. The hardest part about life, I feel like, is setting systems, because once you set the system and you start acclimating yourself to do it, it becomes easy. Like, for example, last week I was challenging myself every week, but this week I can tell preparation is key. I wanted to do plant-based eating Monday through Friday, right? So I did 4 out of 3 days. I think I did. No, 4 out of 5 days I did. And it was, but you know what made it so simple was I took last Sunday to just prep my stuff. where like I literally prepped all my vegetables, my sides, and I put them in the oven, whatever I did, and then I was able to plate them. It made last week so simple, and not only did it make so simple, my body felt better because I'm putting all the good nutrients in my body. This week on Sunday, I was all over the place when I should have said no to some things and planned out my meal prep like I did. So now Monday and Tuesday, I was feeling differently this past few couple of days because I didn't take time to meal prep. And so like meal prep is for me is so important because I'm adding food into my diet to help me control certain things. For example, is I have a thing for my eyesight, so I'm adding more carrots to my diet. There's certain things I'm adding to my diet because I know that the body food is made to heal you by adding to certain things. This thing is one girl that talks about God's food all the time, right? So what I purposely did was I made food to help with energy, to help with focus. And last week was totally different from this week, right? Because I didn't take time to prepare myself, right? And I think too is to like yesterday night, I said, let me fix that around because Wednesday, I'm not gonna let the rest of the week be messed up like how I was Monday and Tuesday. Let me take time to really pivot and to prepare myself today. I woke up early, I prepared things for the day because I want to get to a space where I'm learning how to move with purpose. But it's very hard to move with purpose when you don't plan, and I think sometimes like I'm good at winging it, right? But everything in life can't be wing it based. I have to really say, hey, no, Jay, you have to take time to do 1, 2, and 3, and then the end result will be better. But I think so oftentimes it's just that I don't feel, well, for me personally, I can speak from personally, I don't feel like even though I know I have these great ideas, I don't plan enough for these ideas to be successful. Like last month, I'm used to making way more money than I make because it's Valentine's Day week, like I said, I think a couple lives ago. But I never took time to really actively promote. I never took time to plan, be strategic, reach the right resources because I'm so used to it being successful that I got, lackadaisical in my effort to move with purpose. So, for example, I know for a fact I should have did certain promotes on certain days. I should have been really active in my e-blast, but I wasn't really being strategic. So I think too, I didn't. It's so called understanding by design, right? So understanding by design is seeing the end from the beginning, right? And I realized that in certain ish situations, I did not see the end or plan steps for the fruition to be what I saw, right? And so when you start thinking about success and what you want to do in life, you got to really start thinking like, hey, if I say I want this, what steps must I take to get it accomplished? And not only what steps, what am I willing to do to make it work? Because sometimes if you really read those steps and look at those steps and make a plan, if you have no action, to combine with your level of faith, faith without works is dead. So it's one thing to believe you can do it, but it's another thing to actually do the work to believe you can do it, to make it come into play. And I realized that, Jay, like, you want to have a certain level of goals that you set for 2024, but your action is not lining up with what you're believing for. So this past, like yesterday, I really had to take a step back to say, listen, Jeff, you really want this to be accomplished, you have to put your money where your mouth is, put your action where your mouth is, put your faith, put your words where, like I have to start really aligning everything because I believe that you can have it all, but you got to know what it takes to have it all. Am I doing the daily routines to be successful? And I think that's what it boils down to, because what are you doing daily? Because you can have this big goal, but if you don't do the daily goals, if you don't do the morning goals, the PM goals, and it may seem like a lot, but once you plan, you start getting into a rhythm of success. I can't say I'm successful if I don't plan it, if I don't show it, if I don't do things that successful people do.
I had to put that twice. What are you willing to do to make it work? And what are you willing to do daily to make it work? That right there is the question that we need to be asking ourselves if we have decided that we want to be successful. And I'll even go one step further. What are you willing to sacrifice today to make it work tomorrow? Because sometimes, and we were talking about it a little bit before, and I know this is me as well, is I do the most sometimes, right? And I want to have the email funnel. I want to have the, the landing page. I want to have the links. I want to have everything put together, right? And so all of that stuff is adding up. All of that stuff is taking my focus away in different areas. And I want to have the ebook, and I want to have, the challenge, and I want to have everything. I just want it all because I see other people doing it, right? And it's like, oh, it's working. It can work for me too. And especially as a visionary, you have so many ideas popping up in your head. You're like, oh, if I did this, then that could happen. If I did this, then that could happen. But really sacrificing the good today for the greater tomorrow is what's going to get us to the next level. Why Sadie over here wanting to be in camera?
Sadie got a word.
I know, but that's what it is right now. I'm reading this book, 10X is better than 2X. And it talks about how, we think that in order for us to make more money, we should be doing more things. But the opposite is true, is really niching down and focusing on the few things that's going to take us to the next level, right? And so I have been really trying my best to focus on a few things. But every time I do, I feel like there's more distractions that are trying to vie for my attention. I have to go back to my first year, the first year of my business, 2021. I did everything. I was on everybody's platform. I was in everybody's Facebook group. I was in everybody's club on Clubhouse. I was everywhere doing everything for everybody. And I only made a few $1,000s in the business, right? I mean, I was flying out. I had did a whole, I was the guest for a whole retreat that a business owner flew me out to do the retreat. Didn't get paid for it, right? But I was like, I had to do it because of the exposure. Paid little to no money in my business. And I said the following year, I was like, I'm not doing that. And I remember calling people, sending out emails saying, hey, the contract is up. Hey, I can no longer work with you. I started crossing things off my list. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not showing up here. I'm not doing that. And I was able to more than 10X my business that year. The following year, I started adding things. Right? And even that year, let me go back real quick. That year, I only had one offer. A C3 clarity session. That was it. You get a 2-hour session with Natalie, and that's all I had. You could either book a 15-minute discovery call or a 2-hour call. And I was able to 10X my business. Then I said, oh, this is working. Let me add more stuff. I added 4 more services. I went and opened up a whole program, a 9-week program. I was doing the most. And I was only able to grow the business by about 2X. It was not the growth that I had experienced before. And so I sat and I said, why the heck is this happening? And when I read that book, I was like, it was just like my life in the book. My first to second year, and then my second to third year. Everything that I did right, I said, that's not going to work. And I did everything wrong. And I saw the growth slow down. There was still growth there, but it was much slower. But I felt like I was doing better because I had more things. But you know what made the difference, Josh? I had to go back and look at the numbers. I had to go back and look at the measurable data that I had. And the data showed me that I was not moving in purpose, even though I felt like it. I was not making the money I desired, even though I felt like I was doing all the things. So I had to sacrifice a lot of things this year, and I'm still looking at cutting some things off, right? So that I can 10X the business, so I can get the results that I want, because with purpose, there is a specific destination, like you said. There is a place that we're moving towards. More importantly, there is a person that we're moving towards, right? Who we are and where we find ourselves are one and the same. Our destiny and our identity are one and the same. And if we continue to do every single thing, we're not going to be able to see the one thing, the thing that we were created for purpose in our businesses, if we are not willing to make sacrifices to make that thing work.
That's good. That's so good. And I think about sacrifice, I have to be mindful of just always keeping the vision before me. It's a scripture. I'm gonna read it. It talks about, it's in Psalms 138, verse 8. The Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endure forever. Forsake not the works of thine own hands. And I started thinking about that. It's just like the thing I love about it, and I'm gonna take it to a little churchy a little bit, right? So I have to realize I have a partner, and it's the Holy Spirit, where um, I think the reason why I was able to catch myself yesterday and really to pivot was because when you start building a relationship with Christ or with whoever you serve, whatever it is, I'm just, for me personally, uh, you start to hear from God more. You start to really be, when you're clear on your purpose and you have clarity of mind, you'll start hearing things inside the spirit like, oh, let me fix that, let me pivot. Like, it's something wrong. And when something's wrong, I know the first thing I start to do is to go into prayer, right? And I know I'm meant to do great things. Like, Natalie knows that she's meant to do great things. But what happens is sometimes things in life come to really just make you feel like you don't have a purpose, or to doubt yourself, or to experience fear. And I started to, the reason why that scripture is so important, my pastor always says, is that, the Lord will perfect things that concerns you. So what happens is when you're feeling low or feeling down about your purpose, remember, God is working on perfecting things that concern you, and not only that, is he perfecting things. The reason why reflection is good and the reason why self-development is good, that's the perfection thing, right? That's the thing, that the crooked ways are becoming straight. Because if I know I'm destined to be great, or know I'm destined to live out this type of life, there are certain things in me that I have to pivot from. Procrastinate may be one thing that he's perfected inside of you, but how do you perfect it? Like, how does God work with you perfect it? Where every day I have to set goals where, let me go to sleep early because I want to be able to do this today. Let me, like, even to my lesson plan, like, I'm not the best at lesson planning because I'm good at winging it, right? Like I said, but but what I realized is there's certain, by winging it, even though I've been teaching for 10 years, there are certain things that I miss the first time I do it, the second time I do it. And I want to make sure that when I show up to a place of work that I'm, excelling. So yesterday I went on ChatGPT, and today I did a lesson on, I think, dirty rice. So I was able to give them facts more precise, but I was able to take time to prepare myself. It felt so good going into class prepared with my notes ready and this ready, because I was able to give them a well-balanced lecture and demo part, because I'm working on perfecting the way that I teach. I'm working on, because I don't want to just be a good teacher. I want to be the best teacher, the best of myself. Because what happens is when you show up as the best, not only you're the expert, people start to look at you differently. People start to admire, like, wow, like, I really learned a lot today. Oh, I learned this today. But you got to think, your actions are not responsible for you. You're responsible for the success of other people. And Natalie and I, we deal with a lot of people where we do with coaching. She deals with parents. I deal with children. Like, we just deal with a lot of stuff that, and I'm not saying we can't have an off day, but we have to have a moment. And then after that moment passes, okay, let's get back to the program. Because sometimes you do got to pause and reflect and rest. But when you have people depending on you, you have to realize that, hey, let me just show up as the best version of myself, because I don't want to give somebody a half experience of what this whole experience about being around me. All right. I always try to show up as the best version of myself, because a part of being blessed is a part of giving. And sometimes you showing up to the best of your ability is allows you to progress faster. I was reading a story today on a post on Instagram, and I really want you to share, Natalie, about that too, because Natalie was talking about her first year, second year teaching, and her becoming so intentional over that summer between the first and second, that she went from being a different type of teacher. So now, if you could share a little about that too, because I think that was such a dope story. That was dope. Like, I was like, come on, clarity coach.
Yes. So what happened was, my first year of teaching, I was horrible. I'm not gonna lie. I was a horrible teacher, and not only did my students tell me I was a bad teacher, I had teachers telling me that I was a bad teacher. Evaluations, in alignment with the fact that I was not a good teacher, right? So I would get a lot of unsatisfactories. Now, background is I didn't go to school for education. I went to school for math. And in my senior year, like right before my senior year, I heard God loud and clear say, you're going to be a teacher. And so I started declaring I'm going to be a teacher. I changed my major from computer science to math. And I said, however, I'm going to figure this thing out, I'm going to be a teacher. Point blank, period. And so when I eventually got the job by God's grace, because I'm telling you, I interviewed so many different places, and the place that hired me, Ferris, you remember, I walked into the office, Nicole Hazel, the principal. Shout out to Nicole Hazel if you're on this live. She was like, when can you start? I was like, there's no interview? No, when can you start? And so when I started, I had no background, no knowledge, just I was very green, so to speak. And so it was a very difficult year. I tell people all the time that year was so difficult. I remember this one kid, Giovanni, used to throw his desk at me every day. And I would take him to the counselor, and eventually the counselor said, you the problem, Natalie. He doesn't do this in every other class, so you need to figure out how to get your stuff under control because you are the problem. And that towards the end of the year, I saw this one lady, her name was Barbara, and I saw how she was with her students, right? Where most of the teachers in that school, they were all right. They were mid, as they would say today. But Barbara was on a whole nother level. This short, Jewish, older white lady. She was commanding her students, like the way that she had, command over her room. And we know about classroom management. Like this lady had classroom management down to a science. It was crazy. I asked her, I said, can I start shadowing you, right? She said, oh, absolutely. And when I would use my off period where you're supposed to be planning and doing lessons, I would go and I would sit in her classroom and watch her teach. And when I saw her, it was as if she gave me a vision of what I was supposed to become. I didn't want to be her. I wanted to be me, but I wanted to know everything that Barbara did, how I could implement it in my own way. Because I knew I had my own little flavor and my little sauce, but I needed Barbara's strategies. And over the summer in between my first year, where I really thought I was going to get fired, by the grace of God, I did it, to my second year, I spent that entire summer in the library. I spent that entire summer reading books. I think I read about 3 books a week. I went through Harry Wong's book, The First Day of School, for the very first time. I read so many teaching books. People don't know this part. I rarely say it, but I remember getting math books and I would just do practice problems, right? And I would do it a lot so I could see different ways to solve the problem. Because one thing the kids told me was that I could not communicate the concepts clearly to them. They kept saying, I don't understand what you're saying. You're talking this math language to me and we don't get it. I remember I had one kid come up to my face and was like, and I'm 22 years old, like, this chick did not just come up to me like this and was like, we don't know what you're saying. We can't understand. But when I took the time, I sacrificed a lot because I didn't go out with my friends. My car broke down. Remember my car broke down?
I was catching a bus that year and it was cold.
Yes!
It was so cold.
And then Dwayne, I call his name, gonna send me to this man. And it was like every time I went to get my car fixed, they were like, it's more money, it's more money. So I didn't have any money that summer to go anywhere. So I would walk to the library and read. I didn't have money to buy books. I would read the books in the library, return it. And what it did was it increased my vocabulary. It taught me how to speak on a different level, right? I could clearly remember certain words that I used to say my first year that I had like 4 or 5 different ways to describe something my second year. And then my second year come, I think about 3 months into my second year, I'm doing my thing. I could tell that I was different. I knew, I was like, ooh, this is different. I feel different. I'm moving differently. The kids are responding differently to me. And I started, instead of putting up like all of, they usually have the posters and stuff. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm going to have the kids do projects and I'm going to display the kids' projects in the room. So all around the room, it's just all the kids' stuff that they were doing in math. And my principal walks in and she looks around my room like 3 months into the second year. And she looks at me and she was like, who are you? And I was like, I'm Miss Lee, you know, and I had changed classrooms and all that stuff. I was like, I'm Miss Lee. Remember you hired me? She looked at me. She was like, you are not the same teacher from last year. And I was like, no, I'm not. I am not the same teacher. And from just looking back at it now, I didn't think about it then, right? But looking at it now, it was, I knew God had called me to be a teacher. And I knew he wouldn't call me to a place where I was going to be defeated. Like for me, I had no other option. I couldn't do any other job because this is what God had called me to. So I had to figure out a way to be successful. And the only vision I had was what Barbara showed me. And then I said, I'm going to become the teacher of the year. Now, I didn't become the teacher of the year that year. It was actually my third school district, my first year teaching in the third school district, that I actually became teacher of the year. So about 4 years later, from the time that I made the decision that I would be a teacher of the year, I actually got teacher of the year in that school. But I had a vision of who I wanted to become, and I was moving towards that vision. Everything that I did was purposeful. Everything that I didn't do was purposeful. And as I move in entrepreneurship, I have to remember that, because I'm like, dang, that's who I am. I am that girl that's willing to sacrifice these current, you know, things that make me feel good, the current things that make me like, instead of, you know, saving my money or managing my money, I could be spending and splurging and doing whatever. I'm like, I could be a housewife if I wanted to. But I'm like, no, God called me to be a businesswoman. I can't do this housewife thing. That's not my calling. That's somebody else's call, but not mine. So I'm willing to sacrifice certain things in order to become the person that I know God has called me to be.
That's dope. The reason why I wanted to share that story, because I was reading today, and it's one thing when you read a story, but it's something when you know a story, right? Because I remember when you first started, when you first got the job, and
you
it was
there.
amazing. That's why it's a dope situation, because I think we're just talking about moving with purpose. You can be called to something, but doesn't mean you move with purpose. You know, there are a lot of things that we're called to do that God gives us grace to do, but I just think that we don't take enough time to be intentional to move with purpose. You know, there's so often times we get in situations where I think we get comfortable in what we're called to do versus challenging ourselves to be better at what we're called to do. I think just with just me as just, and it's funny that you say as a teacher, because I remember when I didn't think I started teaching at 23, right? I'm like, I got stuff to do, you know, that's for culinary wise. And it's because I started moving with purpose, I started to realize that, oh no, I'm really called to this. You know, the way I fell into teaching so soon was just like, I did one seminar, and then from that moment I said, I think I want to teach. You know, and then everything started to line. But before I started teaching, there's certain things I had to learn to do. Like I took my culinary textbook and I started to read that for verbatim, because I wanted to be the best at what I did. Because I think I had the same problem you had with communicating. It's one thing to know something, but it's very hard to teach and talk about it, right? So you can be the best at something, but if you don't know how to communicate it to others, that's the part where I had to really become a student of how to teach, not being a teacher. So what happened is you could be called to something, but what work are you doing to be the best version of yourself? And even too, like I'm challenging myself, Jay, hey, you got to go back to read more culinary textbooks, because one time when I think I was working at the Hyatt, it had to be like 17, 18. And my boss said, bro, you don't read enough. Like you don't read enough, you don't study enough. And it's just like, you can't be a better chef if you don't study. You can't be a better chef if you never take time to read. And I think it's one thing to be comfortable in your gift, but something to be complacent. And I had started to become complacent in certain things, even with teaching. I'm like, yo, hey, let me start reading more as a chef. Let me start studying more. Let me start doing different recipes, because I wanted to be the best version of myself. And I wanted to boss up in certain areas, because I know that some people say, oh, this was good. But I said, but it could be better, right? So let me just take time to perfect those things that I want to excel in, because you can't expect to reach a new level of success if you don't try something new. And I realized that, you know, in certain jobs, it's very easy to reach a cap. It's very easy to reach a ceiling, right? But the way to combat that is thinking, okay, you know what, Jay? Even though this job is not requiring more of you, you have a job to do and you have a purpose. So for example, even though I already know that job, like I can get away with just being, ordinary, right? But I know because I'm responsible for the lives that are instilled to me. So it's important for me to put my best foot forward, because I want to make sure that, okay, if I'm saying that I'm a believer, if I'm saying I'm walking in my purpose, if I'm saying I'm committed to this, if I'm saying that I want to do this, I have to make sure my words match up with my action, because my word is my bond, right? So if I say I want to do this, what does it entail about that? And I have to realize the only way I'll accomplish that is by walking in purpose, by moving with purpose. I have to be mindful that um, I have to take inventory and account for what I'm doing on a daily basis if I want to be the best at something, right? And I realized that with purpose, even to like with my students, and we were talking today, like I was doing something really simple, like cutting an onion, right? And my students like, we know that already. And I'm like, well, let me just show you again. There's like, nah, you taught that last year, you taught that at the beginning of the year. But the thing about it, it's a great thing to know that, okay, I am doing something right. But as a teacher, I'm learning to always go back to that point. And sometimes you got to reteach certain things, so I'm always going to do it again. I'm always going to do it again. But it was great to know that as I'm doing certain techniques that my students are getting it, right? And I think that's the biggest part. Whenever I'm operating and moving in purpose, people should know the difference. People should know the light you carry. People should know about your purpose. People should know that, hey, this person is the best at this area. When it comes to clarity, like I say all the time, I can always talk to Natalie because I know that she studies to be like, she said earlier, she was reading 3 books a week. That's really unheard of. You know what I'm saying? But when you want to perfect those things and be better at that, you will take time to be the best at whatever you are working at or working towards. And until you establish in your mind the steps it's going to take to become that thing that you want to do in your life, like whether it's business, whether you want to be the best person at drawing, the best person at hair, the best person at whatever you want to be the best of, it's okay to be the best of it. But now I got to look at, what do I have to do to make it happen? And sometimes you have to sacrifice. You have to be to be the best thing. You got to sacrifice. You might not be able to hang out with your friends. You may not be able to get what you want, because you got to realize that, hey, I love what I'm doing so much that I'm willing to put this aside to do this. What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to? But it takes you having clarity of your purpose. It takes you, hey, I want to move with purpose. So what are the steps I need to take to move with purpose? And until you take inventory of that, there are certain things in life you're going to keep hitting the wall. You're going to keep hitting the wall every time, because you're not taking what steps do I need to take to build the stamina to win? Because the race is not given to the swift, it's not given to the strong, but it's given to those who can endure. This is a race of endurance where, you know what? I may not reach that level of success tomorrow, next week, next year, 10 years from now, but guess what? Every day I'm going to be improving. So when the light shines on me, I will be ready to do a great performance because I've been practicing. All right. So, guys, today we talk about women with purpose. If you're looking for coaching, hit my girl Natalie up for clarity. If you're looking for purpose, we're here to talk. If you're really ready to scale your business to the next level, we are here to help you out. Being a business coach or a coach or different areas, it's such a reward to see people win in the marketplace, because you got to think, I don't feel like I had the best support as a beginning entrepreneur. Like the last 3 or 4 years, I really had a lot of support, but it takes you leaning in on coaches to find out what you want to do, to find purpose, because until you're ready to move forward, you're going to stay stuck. And it's okay to get help. We're not meant to do everything. We're meant to to lean on other people. Sometimes you have to get the support you need, because you're meant to win, but you have to know that. You have to see that. You got anything else to add, Natalie?
Nah, that's it. You are meant to see that you win. Something you said that not triggered me, that I wrote, oh, build your stamina to win. That really resonated a lot. Like, we don't realize the process that we're going through is building our stamina to win on another level. So that's it. That was really good.
We got a question. Hold on. What's your question, bro? Someone has a question.
Okay, Jim. I see you, Jim James.
Chef in training. What up, fam?
Chef, you know we got about 46, 47 people on the live today. Shout out to
That
all
was the
y'all. Come on, Boss Up fam. Y'all showing up on
okay. He was going to culinary school. I see that question in the chat. Jim is typing. If anybody else have a question, please type it inside the chat too as well. Oh, that's good. Okay. All right, I'm gonna see if you finish your question because this is kind of like a thing that we talk about often. Because all right, so I'm gonna just go. I'm not sure if that's your question. What's the rest of it? But I will say too. So I got kicked out. Okay. So I have some. So I have a few students who have a problem with reading. Actually, so I think first off, no school is supposed to discriminate if you have a learning disability. That's the first thing. They're supposed to find certain ways to help you. They're supposed to find certain ways to make it work for you. Um, what I so is this one student that comes to mind, and he had a cognitive issue, and with his cognitive issue, sometimes he would hear the wrong thing. He wasn't a visual learner. So, I mean, he wasn't like an auditory learner. If I tell him, "Hey, bring a circle plate," he may come back with a square plate, right? So what I told him, because he started working for me, I said, "Hey, what I need you to do is learn what your disability needs." Okay, so what happened is because you got to think we're all meant to be great, but sometimes we have a thorn in our side that may be a disability, physical, spiritually, mentally, and you have to find a way to really overcome that disability. So I think it's really good you talked about the whole dyslexia. So what I told him was I said I need you to study your IEP. So IEP is individual education plan, or even too like you may go to a doctor to find certain things out and they can tell you how you learn. They can tell you what's best for you. So what I had him do was create strategies. All right. And when he started to learn strategies, I would say, hey, talk to your teacher or your boss and say, hey, this is the best. Let's say if Natalie was my boss, I said, Natalie, um, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but these are the areas I struggle with, right? So what can I do to what can I do for extra help? Or how can I work well with you to make sure that I accomplish these things? So, for example, is I may be good at this. These are my strong points. These are my weaknesses. And I think too, it's so hard to find good employees. It's so hard to find, like, even colleges are running out of space because they don't have enough students to apply. So by knowing what your issue is and being upfront with it, they will most 9 times out of 10, people are more willing to help you because closed mouths don't get fed. So if you start to really to dive in to say, okay, let me analyze, let me do a mind mapping sheet. Okay, these are my areas of growth, or SWOT analysis. These are my areas of growth. These are my areas of strengths. These are my areas I need to work on. These are my challenges. And if you can create honesty with that, with any employer, any job, any school, 9 times out of 10, they're more willing to help you out. But you have to be transparent about that. And even too, like me being a better teacher, what I had to do was I had to really go back to the drawing board because I have a hard time because I talk fast. I talk very, very fast. So I had to learn how to slow things out because even with my students, sometimes they can't receive what I'm saying because I'm not communicating the right way. So I think it's good to not only communicate issues that you have, but develop a strategy plan. Okay, you know what? I may have issues with let's say dyslexia, so let me find ways to help me best read. So there's certain apps you can use as well too to help you with that. So if it's your passion, you got to think most coloring stuff is hands-on activities. So because of that, you want to find out how can I address those issues. And you don't need to go to culinary school. Not trying to be funny, you don't have to go to culinary school to be successful. Like a lot of chefs on social media are so successful because of their social media. So if let's say culinary school may be a dream, but what if that's not the best thing for you? You might be able to do a certain let's say for example is I've made more money without school than with school. I think I've only used culinary school honestly to be a teacher. I've never used school for any business. No one has ever asked me who booked me, hey, chef, where did you graduate school? I need to see your diploma. Nobody's ever asked that, right? Now, to teach in high school, yeah, they have acts. So I think, too, is that you have to find ways that's best that learn for you. So maybe instead of doing like school virtually, I mean, you might want to do a YouTube. You might want to find someone that offers culinary school that's not online. Even too, like Escoffier School is a school that does it where it's an online course where you can take your time more so to do certain things. So you got to find what works for you. You know, really got to find what works for you. And it's okay to be patient with yourself. It's okay to mess up sometime, but you got to keep going. I would tell you not to stop. But I would maybe not look at school as the goal, but maybe you might got to go to YouTube University, you know, and really find out better ways to do it. Or if you find a school that is more hands-on than practical work, than written work. You got anything to add to that, Natalie?
Yeah, I think he definitely needs to one, contact you and connect with you, because the school may have kicked you out, but I know Chef J gonna do you right. And the beautiful part about Chef J, he does culinary and business at the same time, and he's a great teacher. So you definitely want to hit up Coach Chef J, Jim. And the next thing I want to say is, just like you said, don't limit yourself. The wonderful part about business is you don't have to have a formal education in order to be successful in business. Actually, most people who are successful in business don't technically have, a formal education in that particular field or arena, right? So that's the one thing. You don't need to have a school. Now, you do need to have education, but it doesn't have to be a formal education. So you can get with a coach like Chef J. You can get with some other people. You can use YouTube University, but it is actually consuming the information, obtaining the information, and applying the information that's going to take you to the next level. And then lastly, with the dyslexia, you are in a sweet spot. Because you have dyslexia, you are able to talk to other people who also have specific learning disabilities that think they cannot do a certain thing, and that's a lie. Now, let me tell you about myself. I don't have dyslexia, but I have recognized over the years that it takes me longer to consume information, obtain information, and retain it than average people. So for me, whenever I'm listening to somebody, I actually have to listen to it 4 times. I had to listen to the Cat Williams episode with Club Shay Shay because I thought it was a very good business episode, right? I thought Cat Williams was dropping business gems like left and right, and I was taking notes. But I had to listen to that thing 4 times. Do you know how long? That thing was 2.5 hours, 4 times. That's about 10 plus hours that I had to listen to that thing so that I could absorb the information. But I know that this is how my brain works. And I used to beat myself up, but I have a coach that says, no, Natalie, that's just the way that you learn. And I had to really, and even though I excelled in formal education because I was able to retain the information and regurgitate it, I was never able to hold on to anything for a long time because I was just getting it once, filling out the forms and dumping it. In order for me to change, I had to listen to it at least 4 times. So a lot of the times I listen to Myron Golden. He's a phenomenal business coach. I listen to the Business Bishop. He's a phenomenal business coach. But I listen to the same things at least 4 times so I could get it in me. And I'm taking notes. Even when I'm reading books, y'all, I can't just read a book and be like, oh, I'm going to implement. I have to read a book with a notepad, with a notebook, with my phone, and I'm taking notes. Right now, I wish I had my book with me so I could show you. I have to highlight, and then I have sticky pads where I'm writing notes and taking notes, because if I don't do that, I will forget the information immediately. Or sometimes when I'm reading, it's like the words are jumbling out on the page. So I have to like close my eyes, take a deep breath, come back again and reread the chapter. And it's okay. It is okay. At least you know what works for you, and you're able to, just like I'm speaking to you now, speak to other people that may be in the same similar situation to you, and you have no idea. Those people are probably called to your voice because you have a specific problem that you solve because you are intimately involved with that particular problem. And that's it.
And I just want to add to that too, because I'm the same way too. If I don't have a notepad, if I don't take notes, I'll forget it, right? But I think another thing to add too, and I'm glad you said you're 65, right? There's no age that tells you to stop learning, right? But I think in addition to that part, what makes really sense for me is what I confess by my faith. So I'm really big on faith confessions, right? So before I start something that may be challenging, even this morning, me and my friend had a conversation, and I said, "Oh, we ain't pray today." So things that I'm believing to understand. Like sometimes before I even like today, I had my professor up yesterday. I'm like, "Yo, bro, I don't understand what's going on with this. I need some help." But before I start doing homework, I say, God, I thank you that my mind is open to receive. I thank God that my ability to concentrate is there. Like whatever you're believing for, sometimes you have to write it down. So whatever you're struggling with, take a sheet of paper, maybe find a scripture, and to find out what you can do. You know what you can't do already. That you can make a list of that. So once you make a list of what you can't do, change those wordings around to be faith-filled words. You know, let's say you have a problem with getting up in the morning. I think that every day that I wake up at this time full of energy. Let's say, for example, too, is I have an issue with understanding knowledge of a technique. One of my students had an issue with, we were working with chocolate. He had a problem with doing that. So I had to say to him, I said, no, you got to speak what you're not doing. I have patience with myself to achieve this task. So whatever you're struggling with, start speaking to yourself, because in part about moving with purpose is about speaking with purpose. You want to make sure everything that you have is faith-filled words. And we're gonna log off, but if you need help, bro, like reach out and DM. We can help you out, work out something to help with coaching. But it's never you're never too old to learn. You're never too it's never and can't ain't it. Never and can't ain't it. I'm gonna find a way to can do it. I'm gonna find a way that I can move with purpose, because I know that if this is what I'm called to do, I'm going to pursue it. All right. All right. So guys, we're gonna lock out. And don't forget to tune in next week. And if you need coaching, reach out to us in DM. Natalie gotta go be a mom.
No, that's right.
She gotta be a mom. Now this is the house part. This is where the housewife part come in. All right. So guys, we're gonna log out and have a good week on purpose.
Bye, y'all.